Hello and welcome to the Meet the Star Races course. I'm Jenna Layden, the founder of Star Family Wisdom and your guide throughout this course. And this is all about getting to know the benevolent, friendly, supportive ET races that are interacting with humanity. And humans have a long history of interaction with the star races, and in some ways we can consider them family. I do now that I understand more about my soul connection with ETs, the fact that I've had other lives as an ET, as, a being from another civilization. I now understand this deep interconnectedness and this deep, sense of ancestry that we have with ETs and with the star races, and our galactic history, our galactic family tree is so much bigger and complex than we've understood or even been open to understanding until now. And while the UFO phenomenon is what really piqued the curiosity of people around the world, for the last few decades, we actually have a much more vast, deeper, and meaningful interaction occurring between humans and the star races, which we'll explore a little bit in this course. And my understanding at this point is that we really have nothing to fear. And if we were already in danger, we would know it. And in some ways, we actually have had some, negative, destructive, systems in place on our planet that we are now working to evolve in a more positive way as Earth is transitioning eras. And the ETs are showing up both, through sightings, through contact with humans, like what has happened to me and many other people around the world, to help us awaken to the fact that we're not alone, to help us step out of the fear-based kind of systems we've lived in on our planet, and to help us see the possibility of rebalancing, both the energy within our civilization on our planet, but also in terms of the ecological imbalances that exist, that we've got big choices around right now. And it's my understanding that over the last few thousand years, the last 10,000 years especially, humanity devolved and we lost a lot of profound spiritual wisdom and spiritual connection with each other and with the earth and with the universe. And so many people who have had either abduction or contact experiences are learning about how we've really lost our way through that period of devolution, and now we're coming out of that period. We are expanding our consciousness again. We are able to see things with a new perspective, and we're able to see that we have a really bright future ahead of us because of what the ETs, can share and can offer, and how we can integrate that wisdom into our lives here on Earth. And so it's, my understanding that the vast majority of ET races who are in contact with Earth just want to see us evolve positively. They can't come down here and just directly interfere, which is one reason why the Starseed program has been happening over the last couple of decades. That is an effort for advanced souls who have had other experiences in other civilizations, to come here to incarnate as a human and to help us in this process of reawakening and remembering our place in the galaxy, in the universe, here on Earth. And one thing I think, has remained true throughout the eons of history and contact that has been occurring between humans and ETs. And, while there, are negative factions that exist out there, the vast majority just want to assist civilizations like ours in their evolution, in their becoming, in this advancement out of the dark ages, which we've been in. And so in this course, we will talk a lot about who the ET races are and why they've been interacting with humanity, and which races are part of that Starseed incarnation program. And if you're not totally familiar with that program, It is a program that was kind of established in our galaxy decades ago. It's been going on forever, but decades ago for Earth, there was a really big call put out in the spiritual realms and throughout the galaxy in our local universe to say, Earth is at a critical stage. Earth is at a critical point in their evolution. And if we can get a lot of advanced souls to go incarnate on Earth right now, we can bring back a lot of the wisdom that was lost. We can bring back a lot of the knowledge that was lost, and we can prepare the civilization to transition eras and to be ready for open contact when that time comes. So that's why I'm here. That's why a lot of you are here. We're here to help with the healing of humanity. We're here to help with the rebalancing of energies between masculine and feminine. We're here to help, move out of a state of fear and, heal those traumas that we've experienced on this planet so that we can move forward in a more positive way. So I'm so excited to take you through the material in this course. We'll first talk about some of the ancient contact and some of the ET races that have historically been in contact with planet Earth and how the human race evolved and how our evolution has not been a totally natural evolution. It has been assisted in some ways. And we'll also talk about the helper races, the teacher races that have shown up throughout human history to nudge us along during those pivotal moments in our evolution, to give us the gifts of civilization and the gifts of cosmic wisdom, spiritual law, cosmic law, an understanding of mathematics and physics and sacred geometry. And these ET races have shown up during, times that have been post-cataclysm, or again, times where we seem to be just on this verge of a consciousness shift and we need a little assistance to get to the next level. And so there are many star races that have shown up to offer gifts to our civilization. And we see these stories throughout human history, throughout all cultures. And we now have a much better understanding of who these people were and why they were here. We're also going to talk about the Greys and the hybridization program and what we know about that now. It was something that was a little confusing for a lot of people for many years and certainly resulted in some traumatic incidents for humans, but we have a much bigger perspective on what is happening with the abduction phenomenon and the gray races that are more commonly depicted in our culture. And then we'll talk about some other races that are a little lesser known, and we will end with talking about the mantis and reptilian races. And there's a lot of kind of pop culture around ETs and the star races these days, and it's very easy for certain narratives to take off and explode. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about some of those negative narratives that have evolved over the last few years, and we're going to talk about what part of those narratives I believe have truth and have some insight to offer us versus what might not be serving our best interest at this time. And then lastly, we'll talk about ways you can make contact and ways that you can start your process of close encounters of the fifth kind, human initiated contact with the star races, because they're excited, they're ready to communicate with us, they're ready to connect, they're ready to have that sort of relationship evolve with humans. So we'll talk about ways you can do that safely. But to begin with, we'll first talk through why do we even have information on the star races? How do we even have information on the star races? Where's all of this information coming from? If you're like me, you like to be grounded in science. You like to be grounded in very much evidence-based factual information, right, as much as possible. And so while, there's still some fuzzy pieces of our understanding of the star races and who they are, we do have a much broader set of research and information we can pull from to piece together this puzzle. So I'll share with you where my information has come from to help ground you in that first. So we'll talk about the evidence that exists for the star races, and then we will meet the star races. So let's get going. Thanks for being here.